Welcome to Section 420, Talking Yankees. Well, the seemingly magical 2022 season for the Yankees comes to an abrupt end. Absolutely embarrassed and swept by the Houston Astros. They are now out of the playoffs. And, of course, a lot of Yankee fans are unhappy because not only they lose to Houston, which you kind of expect they were, but it looked like the two clubs weren't even close. The Yankees looked completely overmatched. I know a couple of scores early, and later on were decided by 1 and 2 runs there. But again, you just saw a situation of one organization just vastly superior from the others. So now you see a lot of Yankee fans not only upset about the season, but of course now calling for possibly Brian Cashman head and Aaron Boone as well, just with some of the decisions he made during this playoff round against Houston. So we'll get into all that. Now, of course, you're going to have a lot of speculation as we enter the offseason of who the Yankees should keep, who they should fire, who they should bring back, and whatnot. Probably not going to get too much in that right now, just because there's still a lot of playoff left to see how the year finishes out. And of course, you have the entire winter for that. But we're kind of focus on these 4 games against Houston. Kind of look at some of the key points there, where possibly a different decision or a different play in a different situation could have performed a little bit better. Again, I don't think it was hard to see the Yankees winning this series, but to see them get swept, though, in the way they do, especially Game 3, which is a complete embarrassment, complete low point for this franchise. I can't, think of a lower point in recent memory. Maybe when they got swept by the Boston Red Sox, not swept, but when Boston came back 3-0 back in 2004. I mean, that was such a lowly, pitiful win, that Game 7. When Johnny Damon hits a grand slam early on against Vasquez, just that pit in your stomach you felt then, similar to that 5-0 loss, from Game 3 there. So, so again, that was probably one of the more brutal postseason losses again in recent Yankee history. So we'll get into that. We'll break down each of the games. But before we get there, besides this show you're seeing right now, there is an additional Section 420 Talking Yankees out there. It's the podcast. It's the audio podcast, and it's available out there. So wherever you get your favorite podcasts, go look up Section 420 Talking Yankees, the podcast. And again, you'll get additional content you probably not going to see here. You won't see on TV or YouTube. And that's what probably we get into more stuff where trade speculations, off-season moves, what they should make. It'll be more updated there. So if you want to get into that content, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Now, the Yankees survived the Cleveland Guardians, as we mentioned in the previous episode. Now, it took 5 games, and of course, the Game 5 luckily was a bit of a laugher. Again, the Yankees came out to a bit of an early lead early on, 4-0, and then built from there and ended up winning the game 5-1. Again, it seemed like the Guardians pretty much gave up in that game. So, yeah, it went to 5 games, but again, it was a situation where the Yankees almost blew that, which would have been disastrous for the Yankees to lose to the Cleveland Guardians. Now, it's not disastrous to lose to Houston, but the way they did it, again, really in an embarrassing fashion, and kind of puts a damper on what should have been a good season where, again, the Yankees got the AL East crown, had their, first half of the season when they looked like world beaters, and of course you got the magical run by Judge there, hitting 62 home runs and possibly sealing himself for the 2022 MVP, and it kind of poo-poos that whole thing, the way they performed the series. Now, again, the Yankees really weren't set up for success of just going into the series. The fact that they had to use Garrett Cole for the Game 4 obviously now made that Cole wasn't going to be available during the season. It's a series until Game 3. So that's now, you're on the road in Houston. You would like to have ideally Cole, Severino in those first 2 games if possible for the Yankees to have any shot. But now you're waiting for them to have Game 3, and you're relying on someone like Taillon, as they did in Game 1, and the bullpen, and as well as Severino, who hasn't pitched a postseason for the Yankees since 2019. So the Yankees are already behind the 8 ball there, just the way the pitching was set up. Otherwise, on the other hand, if you look at Houston, they were able to sweep Seattle in the first round there and had Verlander waiting there for Game 1, all rested, ready to go. Now, again, Verlander did get touched up against Seattle, but again, he was a veteran. He was there. He's done this before, and he's now waiting for the Yankees in Game 1. So, again, the Yankees were behind the 8 ball. Now, if you look at the Yankee roster, obviously we know they've been shorthanded with left-handed at-bats. Now, Matt Carpenter, did come back. He worked his way back, and he had 1 appearance during the Cleveland series, 1 pinch hit at-bat, and did nothing with it. Now, the Yankees pushed him heavy in this series. I kind of understand why, but I think they went with him a little too much, and it ended up costing him because he pretty much showed his rust. I mean, here's a guy who hasn't played in almost like 3 months. If you remember, he fouled the ball off his foot in Seattle, had the hairline fracture, and he tried to work his way back the best he could, made himself available for the postseason, but this was not the same Matt Carpenter we had back during the late spring and summer, who looked like Roy Hobbs, at age 37, hitting home runs, left and right. I guess they were hoping for that guy to maybe resurface, but to expect him to do that against this very tough Houston Astro pitching staff, I think that was a lot to expect. You know, Verlander, he's throwing BBs up there, and the rest of their staff, the bullpen, one guy after another, throwing high 90s, and expect Carpenter to be able to catch up to those fastballs and those breaking balls like that. It was too much to ask. Now, they probably had to make a decision. Now, you knew Hicks couldn't be on this postseason roster. Obviously, he had that collision with Cabrera and with the knee injury, so he was out, and you understand it. I'm not saying if they had Hicks instead of Carpenter, this would have been a huge difference. But I think at least Hicks, for all his troubles and for all his slumps and the way he performed terribly this season, I think would have been the better option at this time than Matt Carpenter. But of course, Hicks wasn't available. Now they could have possibly instead utilized Marwin Gonzalez, who again, he's not exactly Babe Ruth himself, but at least it has a live at bat. He's been obviously playing. He's been in the field playing much more, hitting much more than Matt Carpenter recently. So could have went in that direction, but they decided to keep Carpenter on, and the Yankees wanted more pitchers instead of having more offensive players, which you kind of understand, because you're probably going to figure, this is where the Yankees were at a disadvantage pitching-wise. The Yankees were going to need as many guys in the bullpen as possible, so that's why you saw someone like Greg Weissart on the Yankee postseason roster for this round, and not someone like Marwin Gonzalez. But they could have used Gonzalez in this case because Matt Carpenter, again, completely was feeble during the series. So it came down to the first game, and again, just because the way the Yankees needed all their pitchers for, they needed Cole for Game 4 for the Cleveland series, as well as needing Nestor Cortez on short rest for Game 5. So again, even they weren't available early on. You have to go to someone like Jameson Taillon, who again had a very, very respectable, good regular season for the Yankees, but he's not someone you want to be to take the ball in Game 1 against Justin Verlander. Now, to Taillon's credit, he held his own. The Yankees did jump out early in this game, home run thanks to Harrison Bader there. So again, Bader with the hot bat, again hit 3 home runs during the Cleveland series, gets the Yankees on the board here. But again, right away, Houston strikes right back in the bottom of that third inning, thanks to a double by Chas McCormick there, ties the game up at that point. But still, Taillon held his own there. I mean, early on, Houston could have scored, but he had a good play by Judge there in the outfield, making that diving catch to save a few runs. But it wasn't until later on they finally decided to pull Taillon out for Clarke Schmidt. And I think they could have kept Taillon in there. His pitch count was relatively good early on. He wasn't like he was laboring, and he was kind of getting through the Houston hitters there. So I think they could have stuck with him a little bit, but they decided after a walk to go with Clarke Schmidt. Now, Clarke Schmidt would walk 2 guys, have the bases loaded, but then get a big ground ball double play to get out of the inning. Now from there, this is now one of the decisions. You can look at Boone. Maybe could have done something different here. You have Clarke Schmidt, who walked 2 guys, struggled. Now he did get out of the inning, but they decided to bring Schmidt out again for the 6th, and then he would end up serving 2 solo home runs. So I think that's one point there where he got what he got out of Schmidt to get out of that jam. He should have went to somebody else, stuck with Schmidt, and ended up burning him there. So that was probably one decision you can make on Boone. And even if the Schmidt gives up the first home run, okay, maybe gives up 1 home run, you're only behind 2-1 there. Maybe then take Schmidt. No, he sticks with Schmidt again, and Schmidt gives up the 2nd home run there. So again, you get on Boone for that one. Brings out Frankie Montas, who again, he's been out for a while. Again, he was pretty much a trade deadline bust for the Yankees. He serves up a home run as well. So now the Yankees at this point behind 4-1 early. And he's looking at these moves by Boone since he took Taillon, Clarke Schmidt 2 home runs, and Frankie Montas, who hadn't pitched in almost a month, just because he'd been out for so long, wasn't available during the first round of this playoff run for the Yankees. You put him out there cold, and you put him in this playoff situation, and he gives up a home run. So you could question Boone on some of those calls there, and the Yankees are unfortunate at that point behind 4-1. Rizzo would bring the Yankees back a little bit closer. I would say Rizzo and Harrison Bader were pretty much the only Yankee offensive players actually showed up for this series. Rizzo would chip in a home run off of Montero to bring it to 4-2, but then of course Presley would come in for the save, and that was it for the Yankees, dropping the first game 4-2 there. And it was a situation where Verlander wasn't spectacular. The Yankees had him on the ropes. Again, Bader had that home run early on, and they were getting his pitch count up there, but eventually Verlander locked in there, and Verlander plus the rest of the Houston staff would end up striking out 17 Yankees in this first game. So, and that would kind of be the theme throughout this rest of this playoff run there. But of course, that first game was the killer there. 17 Yankees striking out, and it's just a simple fact. If you're not making contact, you're not putting rallies together, you're not scoring runs, and that's just pretty much what happened to the Yankees. They just got lucky in that game with two swings of the bat. One was the Bader home run, and then the other was the Anthony Rizzo home run. So again, the Yankees were down at that point, 1-0, so 1-0, which then bring them to Game 2. Now, you felt a little bit better the fact that you have Severino on the mound. Severino pitched great in Game 3 against Cleveland. Now, he should have won that game. Of course, that was the game with the bullpen fell apart. And of course, again, another situation where they bring Clarke Schmidt in the ninth inning there with the bases in a bases loaded situation. Again, that blew up in Boone's face. So, two Clarke Schmidt situations blowing up in Boone's face. But Severino pitched well enough in the game, deserved the win, didn't get it. But nevertheless, you felt good with him on the mound in this game. But unfortunately, he would just make one bad mistake in one inning, serving up a 3-run home run to Alex Bregman, put the Yankees behind 3-0. Now, this was another similar situation where the Yankees were not making contact. So up against the Yankees was the tough lefty, Framber Valdez, who is probably going to be the likely Cy Young Award winner this year, maybe behind Verlander, maybe be number 2. Having a great season, 17-6, an ERA under 3. Again, a tough lefty, in this game. But again, the Yankee offense wasn't able to muster nothing. And the only 2 runs the Yankees scored in this game was thanks to a defensive error by Valdez. Drew a ball away, would put Yankees as runners on second, third with nobody out. And of course, the Yankees, with some sacrifice ground outs, were able to get the 2 runners in, brought the score within 3-2. But then from there, the Yankees, wouldn't mount anything, muster up any other offense. And again, the combination of Valdez and that bullpen absolutely smothered and shut the Yankees down. Again, the Yankees had 13 strikeouts in this game. So you have 17 strikeouts in game 1, 13 strikeouts in game 2. So in 2 games, 30 Yankee players struck out. And so even though you look at the scores were close there, it didn't look like the 2 teams were close. The 2 rosters that were close. And again, mentioning before, getting back to game 1 there, just real quick with Matt Carpenter. In his, 3 appearances there, 3 strikeouts for him at his at bats there, and he's looked completely overmatched. They used him for a pinch hitting situation in game 2. He would be actually the last out of that game, making the final as a strikeout on a check swing there. So again, it just looked early on Matt Carpenter was completely overmatched by the staff, and that should be the signal there for the Yankees to just, don't give him any more starts. Like, I'm okay with him in a pitching situation, but again, his swing is just not there right now and wasn't ready for this Houston series. So the reason they featured him so much was kind of bewildering. But nevertheless, the Yankees then dropping the first 2 games there. And for the Yankees to have any chance in this series, they needed to win that game 2. You could understand losing game 1 just because, look, it's the first game. The Yankees had just played the day before against Cleveland and traveled down to Houston and get right into the series. So you can see them, get into the hotel late, and it's a travel day. And yeah, even though you're pumped up and you have the energy from just winning the Cleveland series, you can understand that first game being a downer. You have Taillon on the mound, really not the most exciting thing in the world. But you had to win game 2 with Severino on the mound just because, the pitching matchup was close there, but you needed to somehow steal that game 2 because if you could have brought that 1-1 back to New York with Cole on the mound game 3, that was probably the Yankees' only chance of winning the series. If you could split there the first 2 games, take the game 3 with Cole, you're up in the series 2-1. Now, Houston still could come back, but if you're up 2-1 there, it gives you at least a little more breathing room where, look, we only need to win one more game at Yankee Stadium and do another split again in Houston. It at least gives the Yankees some sort of chance of, come out of the series alive. But as soon as they went down 0-2, just mathematically, you knew it wasn't going to happen because then at that point, you pretty much have to win the next 4 out of 6 games. And mathematically, against this Houston team, what have these Yankees showed you that they could do that? I mean, during the regular season, the Yankees went 2-4 against Houston, and the 2 Yankee wins were kind of fluky. One of them was that 3-run home run by Aaron Hicks against Presley in the 9th inning there, and kind of a bit of a home run back and forth barrage there. Again, you don't get that in the playoffs. That doesn't happen. That's just kind of a freak thing that happens. And the other win was during that same weekend series. DJ LeMay, Yankees were down 4-2. He hits a dramatic 2-run home run to tie that game, and then Aaron Judge has a walk-off home run to win that game. But again, that's kind of freaky stuff that you don't see in the playoffs because the playoffs, you just get the best of the best type of pitching and pitches within those games. You don't get really many fast balls to hit like that, or breaking balls that don't snap right. That just doesn't happen in the playoffs. So there's nothing about during the regular season or at least the first 2 games of the postseason that made you feel that the Yankees could come back there. So again, once they were down 0-2, their goose was cooked. So down 0-2, the Yankees shift the series back to New York in the Bronx at Yankee Stadium, where, okay, at least you like the comfort of, yes, you're down 0-2, but at least you're at home for the next 3 games. And at that point, you have to hope to win 2 out of 3. But again, at that point, you get asking a little too much. Now, the only good news is that you have your ace, Garrett Cole, waiting there for game 3. And this game would be, well, 2 reasons. I mean, early on with this game is probably going to be memorable in a bad way. So really didn't Cole have a bad game. Obviously, he got undone by an error. So basically, there was a fly ball by Christian Vasquez, the Houston catcher. Went out to center and right field there, and it looks like Judge and Harrison Bader kind of got mixed up a little bit. It was sort of, you're going to get it, you're going to get it, and the ball drops in. Now, from there, Cole should have still, he was only facing the bottom of the lineup there. Up next was, Chas McCormick. serves up a home run to Chas McCormick. Wasn't exactly a bomb. This kind of a golf line drive opposite field shot. He actually hits the top of the Yankee Stadium right field wall there, but goes over, unfortunately, and it's a 2-run home run and puts the Yankees behind 2-0. So again, you want to blame Bader, you want to blame Judge, you want to blame the fact that Judge played so much center field as maybe his instincts, because usually you always defer to the center fielder in most situations like that. So he might have still had that center field mentality when he kind of got in front of Bader a little bit, and Bader didn't see the ball, and the ball ends up dropping in. So not really Cole's fault, maybe not really Bader's fault, maybe not really Judge's fault. Just a bad circumstance, but nevertheless, once that ball dropped in, and again, you see the way this Astro team was playing, you give them a free base like that, and you just know they're going to make you pay. And then again, right after that, McCormick hits the 2-run home run. Really, you're going to put the game away from there. But that really wasn't the story of the game. The story was the lack of Yankee production in this game. Now, up against Cole was Christian Javier. Now, remember Javier early in the season? He was part of the package of Houston players that pitched a collective no-hitter against the Yankees. So you knew coming in he was probably going to get that Game 3 start. They didn't really announce it right away, but you kind of had a feeling it was him because, hey, look, this guy was part of a no-hitter up there. Why not start him for Game 3? It just made perfect sense. And he pretty much picked up right where he left off. Absolutely just, pretty much silenced the Yankees at bat. The only hit they had against him was a double by Stanton, but other than that, really didn't muster up anything. He gave up a couple of walks, but that was about it. Harrison Bader in the 15th inning there tried to just drum up some offenses to give the Yankees some life. He was thrown out trying to steal second base there. And again, it was just a bad situation. I mean, everybody looked overmatched. They decided to start Matt Carpenter again, which I don't know why. I mean, after Game 1, you should have known that, look, you should not get a starting spot there. He would strike out a bunch of times. Donaldson struck out, looked terrible. And the Yankee Stadium crowd, again, a packed crowd there, 48,000. Looking for something to cheer about. River had nothing to cheer about because, again, it was probably the most pitiful display of Yankee offense ever you can imagine. I mean, they really didn't muster up anything. Now, a key moment here came in the 6th inning, and this was going to be the one they're going to be talking about. Again, if Aaron Boone is not to come back next season, it could be this decision. Now, Garrett Cole would end up having a bases loaded situation. Now, in the 6th inning, his pitch count was getting up there in the 90s. Still relatively manageable, but again, he labored some of these innings there, even though he was only behind 2-0. Now, in the inning, Alex Bregman leads off with a double. After that, Cole would have a walk to Trey Mancini, and the former Baltimore Oriole, who they picked up at the trade deadline. And then Cole with a little bad luck, Gurriel, a little kind of a excuse me check swing, little bloop into right field there where Judge was really playing too far back, didn't have a play out of it. So now you have a bases loaded situation with nobody out. Now this was the key moment here for Aaron Boone. Now he had Lou Trevino warming up in the bullpen, but it's a case of, okay, what do you want to do here? Do you want to stick with your ace, Garrett Cole, who, again, he's only at 96 pitches, so it's not like he's, being overworked, overused too much. I mean, there's no reason for him not be able to go 110, 115 pitches in this game. And in that really inning, again, it kind of came quick, the Bregman double. Okay, you had a full count on Tucker there, but he ended up walking. And again, he just threw a few pitches to Gurriel. So it's not like he threw a ton of pitches in that inning. So you could stick with your ace, Garrett Cole, who has the high velocity fastball to strike guys out or get some, infield pop-ups to get out of the jam. Or you go to someone like Lou Trevino, who's kind of a mediocre at best reliever. Now he does have he gets a lot of ground ball outs from the sinker. Maybe a hope for get a double play, whether get a double play, maybe get out of there only behind 3-0, or maybe by some miracle you get one of those comebackers up the middle where Trevino's able to field it as a pitcher, throw it home to the first base double play there and get out of it, get a jam that way. Boone, I guess, and Matt Blake decided to go with Trevino there. Again, they're going to be questioning that one probably the entire offseason. And then up against unfortunately, Trey Mancini. Actually, he was the one who got the RBI single to left field. It was deep enough. Obviously, Bregman was able to score easily. Now, here's a bad stat. Now, Stanton was in left field, made a bad play here. Baseball fundamentals, you supposedly throw the ball into second base, keep that runner there at first. He decides to see if he could gun the runner out at third base, and unfortunately what that does is throw was late there, so the runner for first base was able to move up. So now instead of having runners at first and third with one out where maybe a double play can get you out of that situation, you would have second and third where the double play is taken out of effect, and then Christian Vasquez, who earlier, again, he kind of dunked that ball in that Bader misplayed. He would hit a 2-run single from there, and at that point, putting Houston up 5-0, and that pretty much put a nail in the coffin for the Yankees in that game. Again, bad decision, obviously bad decision, possibly bringing Trevino in. Now, look, you can look at it two different ways. I would have stuck with Cole there in this situation. I'm not saying it was a no-brainer. But I would have stuck with Cole there just because, look, he's your ace, he's your guy, and if you, that's the moment to get, that's pretty much the moment of the series that the Yankees are going to lose it. You might as well go with your best pitcher to do that. Or if you're going to bring someone out of the bullpen, bring out at least when you're high leverage guys. Not saying Loiza is as good as Mariano Rivera, but the way the Yankees have been using him, they've been using him in the tough spots. And overall, this postseason, he's done well. So he's earned the stripes. Even if you want to bring Clay Holmes in that spot, even though it's very early on in the 6th inning, this is one of your better guys in that situation versus Lou Trevino, who's kind of like your mop-up guy. You know, you bring him in the 5th inning if like your start is terrible. So you bring him in that spot. I just didn't like the decision. Many probably agree. And again, if Boone's not to be back next year for whatever reason, that's probably one of the key decisions there to bring. You lift your ace, your $300 million player for Lou Trevino, who's again some scrap reliever. You got, you know, that was a throw-in in the Frankie Montas trade there. So that was just a bad moment for the Yankees, and that's pretty much where the series got lost. And at that point, just the way the Yankee bats were completely silent, the game was lost right there in the 6th inning. Now, the Yankees at that point only had 1 hit. Now, in the 8th inning, they did muster up a little offense. They finally got a couple walks, put a couple guys on, and it was the only time throughout the, you know, it took until the 8th inning until the Yankees actually got 2 runners on, you know, wowee. But unfortunately, we weren't able to do anything with that. Now, in the 9th inning, they did get a couple of hits finally. So instead of just being a 1-hitter, it was a 3-hitter embarrassment. But nevertheless, it ended there, and the Yankees fall in Game 3, 5-0. And then you could, at that point, kiss the series goodbye. So after the embarrassing Game 3 loss for the Yankees, brought it to a Game 4, which, look, you know it's over at that point. You know, why even bother showing up? But you got to... only I would tip my cap to is, well, of course, Harrison Bader and Anthony Rizzo, the 2 Yankee offensive players, actually showed up in the series. But at the Yankee Stadium crowd, again, there's as a fan, every reason not to show up to get Game 4 just after what you saw Game 3. It's Sunday night. You know, the weather was a little kind of rainy there. It was on a possibility that the game would have gotten rained and postponed for the next day. But that was probably the Yankees' only prayer to actually not get eliminated that night, because you kind of knew it was coming around the corner there. Because it was kind of cold, drizzly weather a little bit. It was supposed to be a 7 o'clock start. Now they had to move it back to 8:30, so they knew they were at least going to be able to get the game in. And again, if you're a fan, you say, hey, look, my team's down 3-0. It's Sunday night. I got this, you know, school's tomorrow for the kids. I may have to go to work. Every reason in the world to stay home. All right, look, Sunday, I want to stay home and watch the football games, watch Sunday Night Football. But nevertheless, got to go to. Now the announced crowd was 46,000, so that's only 2,000 less than Game 3 there. So a pretty decent crowd in that situation. Now, if you looked early online, actually a lot of the seats were pretty much, you know, marked down for like $18 to even $21 there. So, you know, I think some fans kind of put it online and say, hey, look, if someone wants to buy the seat, fine, I'll just sell the ticket and stay home. Or if no one buys it, I'll just go to the game. So I think a lot of situations wasn't actually a high demand for those seats. So nevertheless, people figured, you know what, I don't want to eat the money, so let me just go to the game. But nevertheless, at least a decent crowd there. Now, I had a feeling that the Yankees would come out early in this game with a little fight. I didn't think, I thought at least they could take the Game 4. I like the pitching matchup. You know, Nestor Cortes versus Lance McCullers. I know McCullers has been tough on the Yankees, but compared to all the starters they faced beforehand, he was at least kind of touchable, hittable that eventually, and just the way the Yankees have been shut down the previous 3 games, you figure at some point the Yankee bats would have to come alive. And I figure at least they'll be able to maybe steal this game, push it to a Game 5. Now you're going to face Verlander in Game 5 and get mowed down, but nevertheless, at least get a game in the series. But that would not be the case. But at least the Yankees bats did come out and show some life finally, at least showed a little bit heart. Ended up scored 3 runs early on in this game. Gave Nestor Cortes a 3-0 lead there, and you think, hey, you know what? Maybe at least we could get this one tonight and take out chances tomorrow where, look, if you win that game, just get the series back to Houston somehow. Just focus 1 game at a time. But, of course, that would go out with a fizzle. Now, Nestor Cortes, if you remember during the Cleveland series, had to go on 3 days rest in that Game 5. Now, he was good in that Game 5, went 5 innings, only gave up 1 run, and had his normal 4 days rest for this game. But we don't know, maybe the 3 days rest he only had in that first game might have tweaked something, because in this game his groin started to bark on him. Now, it could have also been the weather. Again, it's kind of a chilly, rainy day, not the ideal situation to be stretched out in. His groin will start acting up a little bit. Now, the Yankees, after a couple of walks, came out to look at him, facing the dangerous Jeremy Pena. Again, he had the dramatic home run against Seattle in that 18-inning marathon, would end up hitting a big, gut-wrenching 3-run home run to left field, a bomb. Tied the game up like that. So all the work the Yankees did in the early part of this game to at least scratch across 3 runs, some good clutch hitting by Anthony Rizzo, some opposite field hitting by Rizzo, all thrown out the window on 1 swing by Pena. Now, this is a bit of a back and forth game, you know, and twice in this game, give the Yankee offense some credit. They would mount some comebacks, even at a point, give you a little hope off the Harrison Bader home run, putting the Yankees up at 1 point 5-4, showing the fight again. And it was Bader's 5th home run throughout this postseason run for the Yankees. So again, all the people who want to, again, I understand want to call for Cashman's head, had the guts to pull that move for Montgomery, bring Bader in here with a boot. He can't even walk and play the field. And I know he had that error between him and Judge in Game 3, but look at the offense he provided for the Yankees. I mean, he was pretty much the only lively bat the Yankee had throughout this entire postseason process. Pushed the Yankees ahead, but it all come undone in the 7th inning, and you're going to see 2 iconic plays there with Loizaga on the mound. Now, Loizaga goes in for his 3rd inning of work. Kind of came into the 5th inning, went to mop up after Peralta. Did the 6th inning, was clean, and then was in the 7th there. Now, situation with Altuve. Altuve with an infield hit there. Now, it was a ball that Loizaga was trying to cover first base. Both Loizaga and Altuve were running to the bag at the same time. Loizaga fielded the pitch, but unfortunately, both their feet really came down on first base, seemingly at the same time. Now, maybe Altuve just got in their whisker earlier, and unfortunately, Altuve was safe there at first base. And then nevertheless, but the crucial play would be after that, where an easy ground ball to Gleyber Torres, and there at shortstop, kind of flicked the ball a little off, it was kind of offline with kind of Falefa. It would allow eventually Altuve to get to 3rd, and in that inning, Houston would plate 2 across the board and then take a 6-5 lead, and then from there, that was it for the Yankees. And fittingly, of all people, the last out of the game was Aaron Judge, the guy the whole season's been built around, guy we maybe won't see again in the Yankee uniform, makes the final out, and the Yankees go out and whimper and are swept in 4 games. So what happened in this series? Well, you can't blame the Yankee pitching because overall they held the Houston Astros hitters at bay. Now, the Yankees even got a little lucky because 2 of their best hitters, Alvarez and Altuve, didn't exactly play great during the season. Again, Alvarez was a beast this season. Killed Seattle, especially in that Game 1 there, but the Yankees pretty much held him at bay there. So can't blame the Yankee pitching. It was the offense, and mainly, unfortunately, it was the big man, Aaron Judge, who this team has been leaning on the whole season. Came up empty in this series, just with a single hit. Absolutely no power. Now, did he get burned out trying to chase 62? Probably, and I think that carried over a little bit. Again, you must have how they're breaking away from other games to see his at bats, so you just mount the amount of pressure and all that on him. I think that carried over in the season. And the other big man, Stanton. Look, he had a couple of hits there. He played a little left field, which I was a little surprised at, but not that he played terribly, but you got no power from him. So your 2 main best players gave the Yankees no power there. And, of course, the rest of the cast didn't do well either. Matt Carpenter, again, he should have not gotten 2 starts in this game. He looked completely overmatched. Donaldson looked terrible. I can't believe Boone stuck with him as long as he did. I mean, he was pretty much an automatic out. Just got a couple of walks, and that's about it. The defense is fine, but he gave the Yankees absolutely no offense there. And that was kind of the problem here. Houston, that organization, this looks completely overmatched against the Yankees. I mean, the Yankees looks like they didn't have a shot against them. They're almost like on a different planet how good and how deep they are. So that's going to be part of the offseason stuff that the Yankees going to have to deal with. There was this completely matched by a better organization. But again, the Yankees' best players, best hitters, Judge, did not show up in this series. So that brings us to the World Series now. You can have the Houston Astros, the Yankees nemesis, versus the Philadelphia Phillies, the Mets nemesis there. So I guess, different New York fans are going to be rooting for different teams. Who I want to win, of course, well, as a Yankee fan, I don't want to see Houston to win. So, of course, I'm going to be rooting for the Phillies hard. And, of course, they have, Robbie Thompson, the former Yankee bench coach there, who was Joe Girardi's bench coach when Girardi here was the manager there. So if you're a Yankee fan, you want to sit back, kick back, and get a large Philly cheesesteak and cram it down.